The roots of banditry in Nigeria. When many people hear the word bandit today, they think of kidnappings, village attacks, and armed groups hiding in forests across northern Nigeria. However, the crisis did not begin with kidnapping. Its roots lie in a long struggle over land, cattle, and survival. For centuries, farmers and herders lived side by side in northern Nigeria. Farmers cultivated crops such as millet, sorghum, and maize, while Fulani herders moved cattle along traditional grazing routes. Although disputes occasionally occurred, community leaders and traditional rulers usually settled them peacefully. Things began to change in the late 20th century. Northern Nigeria experienced rapid population growth, increasing the demand for farmland. Many grazing routes that cattle had used for generations gradually disappeared as more land was converted into farms and settlements. At the same time, desertification and climate change reduced pastureland in the far north. As water and grass became scarce, many herders moved southward in search of better grazing areas for their cattle. This migration increased contact between farmers and herders. Farmers complained that cattle destroyed crops, while herders argued that their traditional routes had been blocked. As competition for land intensified, tensions grew and conflicts became more frequent. Another major problem emerged during the 1990s and early 2000s: cattle rustling. Criminal gangs began stealing large numbers of cattle in states such as Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, and Kaduna. Since cattle represented wealth, status, and livelihood, losing them often meant losing everything. Many herders believed authorities were not doing enough to stop the thefts or recover stolen animals. Frustration and anger spread through many rural communities. What had started as disputes over land and resources was slowly becoming a much deeper security problem. The rise of vigilantes and armed groups. As cattle rustling became more widespread, many rural communities lost confidence in the ability of security agencies to protect them. In response, local vigilante groups began to emerge across parts of northwestern Nigeria. At first, these vigilantes were seen as heroes. Their mission was simple: defend communities, track cattle thieves, and protect villagers from criminal attacks. Many residents welcomed them because they provided a sense of security where government presence was weak. However, the situation gradually became more complicated. Some vigilante groups were accused of abusing their powers. Reports emerged of arbitrary arrests, revenge attacks, and the targeting of individuals suspected of supporting cattle rustlers. Many Fulani communities claimed that innocent herders were sometimes treated as criminals simply because of their ethnic identity or occupation. Whether these accusations were true in every case or not, they created deep resentment and mistrust. As tensions increased, some young men began forming armed groups for what they described as self-defense. Around 2011, several of these groups became active in parts of Zamfara state. One of the names often mentioned was Kungiyar Gayu, meaning youth group. Many members believed they were protecting their communities from cattle thieves and hostile vigilantes. Initially, some of these groups saw themselves as defenders rather than criminals. But over time, the situation changed. Armed groups started carrying out retaliatory attacks against villages they believed had harmed their communities. What began as protection soon evolved into revenge. Each attack created another reason for retaliation. Villages were burned, livestock stolen, and innocent people killed. The cycle of violence continued to grow. As more young men joined these groups, some leaders discovered that violence could also bring wealth and power. Gradually, self-defense gave way to organized criminal activity. Groups that once claimed to protect communities began attacking villages, stealing cattle, and demanding money. The conflict was no longer only about security or survival. It was becoming a profitable business built on fear, revenge, and weak law enforcement. The forests and the kidnapping business. Northern Nigeria contains vast forests such as the Rugu Forest, Kamuku Forest Reserve, and Falgore Forest. These forests provided ideal hideouts for armed groups. Bandits could attack villages, ambush travelers, and then disappear into difficult terrain where security forces often struggled to pursue them. As these groups became more established, they discovered a new source of income that was even more profitable than cattle rustling: kidnapping. Around the mid-2010s, many criminal gangs began abducting villagers, traders, travelers, students, and wealthy individuals. Families were forced to pay ransoms to secure the release of loved ones. Kidnapping quickly became a lucrative business. Some gangs earned millions of naira from a single operation. The promise of quick money attracted more recruits, including unemployed youths seeking income. What had once been localized violence was transforming into a sophisticated criminal enterprise. Entire communities lived in fear of attacks, while many residents abandoned their homes and fled to safer areas. The kidnapping industry soon became one of the main drivers of bandit activity across northern Nigeria. Weapons, expansion, and the modern crisis. As bandit groups expanded, they gained access to increasingly powerful weapons. Conflicts in countries such as Libya and Mali contributed to the spread of illegal firearms across West Africa. Weapons that were once difficult to obtain became more accessible through smuggling networks operating across porous borders. Armed groups in Nigeria acquired assault rifles and other sophisticated weapons, making them far more dangerous. The crisis spread beyond Zamfara into Katsina, Kaduna, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Niger states. Thousands of people were killed, injured, or displaced. Entire villages were abandoned as residents fled repeated attacks. Today, banditry remains one of Nigeria's most serious security challenges. However, it is important to understand that the crisis did not appear overnight. Its roots can be traced to farmer-herder conflicts, cattle rustling, weak rural security, poverty, unemployment, environmental pressures, and years of revenge attacks that spiraled out of control. What began as disputes over land and cattle eventually evolved into a vast criminal network responsible for kidnappings, village raids, and widespread insecurity. Understanding this history does not excuse the crimes committed by bandits. Instead, it helps explain how a local conflict gradually transformed into one of the most complex security crises in modern Nigerian history. This is the Communicators Hub-TCH, where we uncover hidden histories, untold stories, and the truth behind mysterious beginnings. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share to help us bring more fascinating stories to you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.